Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wired Nerdy Podcast, episode number 19. My name is Keith. I am here with my good friend and co host, Doug. Doug, how is episode number 19 finding you?
It's good. We have a lot of good things to talk about. As you know, the WWDC, or Worldwide Developer Conference, acronyms trouble me sometimes, but
No, that's perfect.
Apple's keynote event was last week, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But I think we're saving most of our time today for our special guest, Brian, which I'm really excited about. You can give us a little more information on that.
Yeah, definitely. So we are going to tackle some Wired Nerdy news, as Doug said. Huge event this past week with Apple. It's like they're following on the heels of the Google one we talked about a couple episodes back.
Yeah.
And then our special guest, of course, is Brian, who is not only a retro game collector. We've mentioned him before. We've helped him out with conferences and that sort of thing. But his other thing he does is he builds custom arcade cabinets. We got on this because behind Doug there, you can see his arcade there if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, if you're on audio only, no big deal. Doug has an arcade behind him. But Brian creates and crafts and modifies custom arcades for privatized purposes for people in their private home collections. And so we're going to talk about that, talk about the process, how he got into it, and just explore just the general area of the community of modding and building custom arcades for people's homes and stuff. And he is an expert at that. He has some incredible stuff. We've got some great pictures and stuff we'll show of his work as well. But before we get to our guest, let's cue up the Wired Nerdy News.
Nerd News.
All right, Doug, you mentioned Apple had their keynote, and this bad boy was like over like an hour and 40
It
some
was a
odd
really
minutes
long one.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of content. We're just not going to go into all the details of everything, but
No.
we're going to gloss over the high levels in case you missed it, and we're just going to hit those big marks. I can tell you right out the gate. Of course, there's going to be an update to all the phones as far as like iOS. Then they're adding new features and things like that. You'll be able to get summaries online, but we're going to hit the big ones here. I'm going to start off with the first one. They announced a 15-inch MacBook Air. It is super light. It's super thin at 11.5 millimeters, and it is only 3 pounds. Now, if you've not messed with MacBooks, they are amazing. Obviously, because they're so thin, they're made to be ultra portable. They don't have a lot of ports on them. This bad boy only has 2 Thunderbolt USB-C ports on it. That's kind of normal. But people that use Airs are really using it for the portability. I've owned an Air in the past, quite a few of them actually. Amazing machines. It also has their M. line of Silicon M.2. So super fast. But this is a big deal because the screen is a lot bigger. They also come in a variety of different colors. Price point ain't bad. They dropped the last gen Max down to like $1,000. These things are going to be hovering around the $1,100 mark and up, of course, depending on storage size and that sort of thing. But these are really for the biggest bang for the buck and for the value, are really one of your best options if you're really portable. They're razor thin, super fast. I'm excited about it. The fact that they have the 15-inch one, it's great. It's bigger screen, real estate, and everything. Especially since I didn't have the list, but I'll bring it up. One of the key elements was they were talking about gaming, and more developers are starting to release on Mac. And here on the Wired Nerdy Podcast, we talk a lot about that. One of the big announcements that they have is No Man's Sky, which is a hugely popular game both in PC and it's now on Mac. Now, if you have a device like this, you got a bigger screen so you can enjoy your games too. So spreading the love. What do you think about it, Doug?
Yeah, I've never owned a Mac. We had them. My mother was a teacher. The iMac, I believe, the colored one.
Yeah.
I always call it the wrong thing. Yep. I really enjoyed it, but I'm kind of the traditional, and I know there's shortcuts. The right click guy. I got to have my right click button and all the Windows stuff. I will say, and we're going to get through some different products today, but that's one thing Apple has is they have beautiful hardware.
It's
I
well
mean,
made.
they really take their time into designing it and making it look good. So, yes, Android fanboy here, but your phones, your laptops, they all look great. So, I had a really good time watching the keynote. Keynotes have been awesome since the days of Steve Jobs. He really got the crowd's attention. Tim Cook, I believe the current CEO, still grabs your attention. I don't believe it was a live event, but I had my attention held even for stuff I didn't even know what they were talking about.
Yeah, it was pre-recorded. I'm gonna blow your mind, Doug. You actually can enable right click on Mac OS now.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
I
gonna
may have to switch.
I want to convert him. That
Oh
gaming
man.
takes off, maybe you never know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we're not even gonna waste time. We talked about this before. What's the big product announcement? We'll go through the others after this, but let's just not waste time. Let's get right to it.
Yep.
What is it?
Vision Pro. So to me, not breaking down any specs, not breaking down any other things, it's a VR headset. But Mac does not want you to call it that.
No, they
Uh,
don't.
yeah.
Well, they mentioned
Uh,
AR, like augmented reality as well,
yeah.
but also 3D as well.
Yeah.
So uh, it looks like
The
Macho Man Randy Savage's glasses, though.
I was just gonna say that
Or you're
the
gonna go skiing.
the amount of memes that have
Oh, I
come
know.
out about this
I'll put some
device
up.
are
I'll put some up.
are are the funniest thing ever. I'm really excited for their technology. Again, their design looks great. I mean, sort of. It's a strange device. If you are audio only, please go out look at it. It's called the Vision Pro. But then the price tag.
Oh,
The
God.
price tag on this. So, what is it? The PlayStation VR that's been out a while. It's
Mhm.
got a really good reputation. It works well.
Yep.
I've even talked about some law enforcement companies are using it for VR training for law enforcement, and it's got a better price point. We'll throw that price point up. I can't think of it at the moment, but the VR is priced at $34.99. You know, not 34.99, $3,499, and we really don't know its capabilities. It hasn't had any tests out in the field. There's no industry standard of, hey, this is an awesome device. So kind of sticker shock to me. What do
Yeah.
you think?
Well, first of all, just Googled it while you were talking. The price point for the PlayStation VR 2 from Best Buy is right at $550. If you get a big bundle with Horizon, Zero Dawn, the games, or any of those, or Horizon Call of the Mountain, I think it is. They're calling it. It's a bundle. It's $600.
Yeah.
That's a pretty decent entry point. There was also a recent announcement where they're now competitors with Apple since they've jumped into the fray. Is Quest 2 from Meta,
Hmm.
which are known
Yep.
as
I've heard of them.
Oculus, and they're very good. The thing about this, here's my thoughts. I have no doubts that Apple's going to innovate. I'm fascinated to see what this is like. I think it will be a game changer in way of the way that they deliver it and the specs and all of that. Great. They
Yeah.
talked about it having a single battery, very lightweight, it attaching, to your hand, all those kinds of things. But the price point just blows my mind. I got to be honest
Yeah.
with you. Apple has a reputation for being expensive, and they are, but they do have higher quality products for it. And typically, if you're going to drop, $1,100 on a MacBook, it's going to last you 13 years. You can't say that for a PC. You're going to have to upgrade the PC,
No,
depending on what you're
not at
doing.
all.
But for this, I was really kind of surprised at how high that price point is. I think that's a little Gucci. I think it's a little high. It makes me wonder who's the demographic. There's always going to be the hardcore Mac people that's going to buy it, but is this like businesses? Is this? I mean, that's a high price point, and so to me, it doesn't feel like they're trying to compete with Oculus, or even any of the other ones out there.
Mhm.
It's just the price point's just so out of the water. So I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't know why. So it's going to be unattainable for most people, even diehard Mac people,
Mhm.
because that are used to paying exorbitant prices. It's just so out there, So those are my thoughts. I have no doubts that it does something amazing that maybe we haven't seen before, and I'm excited to see that as a technologist. But I don't get it. I don't see the point. Don't know who they're competing with. So that's my thought.
Yep, I totally agree with you. Looking at the website, there's not a lot of information. I mean, it talks about the technology, kind of what it does, but it's not telling you what comes in the box. I mean, are we paying $34.99 just for the headset or the device? Or are we getting some peripherals? Are we getting some software and some gaming and other stuff included? So it'll be interesting to see once this is finally released, what that $34.99 gets you.
Yeah, and what's crazy is the Meta Quest 2 is a great example. Brand new. Now it's not the latest gen because there's a new one coming. Is $300 on Amazon.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, eh, what are y'all doing? So I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm
Yeah.
not crazy about the price, but I'm sure it's amazing. But it ain't $3,500 amazing. I don't care.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
better change your life for that. That's
Absolutely.
ridiculous. So
Now, one
anyway,
thing I will say, closing this out, I'll close it out here, is I'm a huge fan of both the book and video or the movie Ready Player One.
mhm.
So if this is kind of their step into the Ready Player One world, then I'll spend 3,500 right now. I mean, but I don't think
Ashley
we're up
won't
to
let
the
you.
ready.
Ashley
Oh
ain't gonna
no,
let you.
she will be mad.
She won't let you get a Google Fold, man. What's going on?
But I
She's
would
trying to
say,
keep you out
I
of the poorhouse.
she is, and I love her for that. Shout out to her.
She got to look out
Uh,
for you.
Absolutely. So I mean, if this is the start, and we're probably 10, 15 years away from that great of technology of Ready Player One. But if this is a start, that's it's very exciting. So I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the technology does compare to what's out there. What does it change? Companies copy each other's. Competition's always
Yep.
good. I just don't feel like at the price point that Apple's trying to compete. I
Yep.
don't think that's their goal. This seems like a vanity project or a prototype almost. And that if you just
Hmm.
wanted to happen to take part of it, that's why they slapped that price on it. But that's my 2 cents. So anyway,
Yep.
let's go on through and gloss over what are some of the other highlights real quick here that people can expect. You get the next one, Doug.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool announcements, stuff I really would like to see come to the Android world. One of them was contact posters.
Those are cool.
So when you call someone, you'll get a full screen, I think possibly a video or an emoji of who's calling you or who you're calling. Right now, when I call on Android, I don't know how it is on Apple. I get a little picture that
Same
I
for
have to
us.
put on there myself,
Yep.
on myself. Sorry,
Hmm.
and it's sometimes it's fuzzy, blurry. You have to get the right resolution photo. So these look amazing. It's a full phone picture of who you're calling, and you can do some custom photos and stuff. So that's a really cool feature.
It is really cool.
Uh,
I'm excited about it.
yep. The other one I saw was a FaceTime voicemail. So kind of getting futuristic here. You leave a video voicemail for the person you're trying to call. I thought that was a
I like
really
that.
cool concept.
Yep, that's a really good one. And on top of that, it's kind of in the same category. We don't have it on our list, but I do want to call it out as an honorable mention. Is that not only can, if you FaceTime somebody with video, not only can you leave them a video voicemail, another cool thing is every one of us gets spam calls, right?
Hmm.
They now
Definitely.
will have real time transcribing voice to text while somebody's leaving you a voicemail. So that means if somebody calls you, don't recognize the number, could be a spam, you just let it go to voicemail. Once it hits voicemail on the iPhone, you sit there and you wait. As they're talking, you can read it on your lock screen and it tells you what they're saying. And if you realize it's maybe a family member or whatever, you can quickly pick up and answer, kind of like the old days back when you would grab it off of the answering machine. I think that's really cool. You can see what they're saying while they're recording it and decide whether you want to pick up a little bit later. That's a really cool advancement. That's
Yeah.
neat.
Now, I don't know if it's the same thing that you're talking about, but I have to like give a little brush of the shoulder to my Pixel because Pixel has a mode called call screen. So when I get an unknown caller or a spam call, it does exactly what you just said. I will see exactly what they're saying is transcribed in front
That's
of me.
awesome.
There's even buttons come up that say, "Tell me more information. Tell me why you're calling. Tell me who you work for." So I
You've already had
believe.
that for a while on Android, right?
Yeah, and
See,
it's
look
Pixel
at it.
exclusive. I don't know
Ah,
if they've released it to the other Android devices,
that's a cool
but
feature.
Pixel exclusive. It's called Call Screen. If you haven't checked
Hmm,
it out, definitely. I
I didn't
think
know
this
that.
is the same thing that you're talking about,
It is.
and it
Sounds like
helps
it.
big time.
That's awesome, man. See, I didn't know. This is why it's good to have an Android
Yeah,
guy and an
yeah,
Apple guy so we can bury the hatchet, come together, find out what we have in common and sing kumbaya and not wage war.
yeah. To kind of put a big spin on it, Apple's type of ice cream, Android's type of ice cream. Let's kind of share the same ingredients, and let's just make both
It's
universes and both worlds
it's
great
all ice
for
cream,
each
right?
person.
It's all
Yeah.
ice cream. All right. So
I was
yeah,
thinking about ice cream day, but anyway, I'll keep going.
Doug's thinking about food. All right.
Oh yeah.
What else do we have, Doug? Beyond the FaceTime messaging, what's
Hmm.
next on the list?
So I believe, and I could be wrong, this is another, not a steal, but a borrow from Android. It's standby mode. So there'll be a mode on your iPhone that you can turn it sideways or put it on a wireless charger that turns it into a clock or a smart device.
Yep,
I know some of the Androids do that already. Apple will have its own spin on it. I think it's a really good idea.
I
Because
agree.
what do you do with your phone when you're sleeping at night? I mean, it's just sitting there on
Just,
your
just
counter,
charging,
desktop. Yep.
charging, and the screen's off. Where this, it has the adaptive light, so that if you put it in there and you put it like sideways, you can either have a calendar, but it also detects ambient light when your lights go out in your bedroom,
Mhm.
for example, go to sleep. It darkens to a red mode, so the
Yeah.
light doesn't keep you awake. Really cool little things like that. So you can also have stock tickers. Like, I like it for if you have it on your desk, because it isn't just if you want to use it for a nightstand alarm clock. You can also have it on your desk, and it's got MagSafe, so it's a magnet that it'll attach to it, almost free floating, and you can have a stock
Yeah.
ticker on it. There's all kinds of widgets and apps that you can have, which widgets have obviously been on Android for a while. iOS has had them for a while too, but now you can customize all that when you put it in that mode, and it's kind of a nice little assistant there.
Yeah.
And they coupled that with, right now, and I dare say it because my phone's gonna activate, you have to say "Hey Siri" in order for it to activate. They're changing it. My phone just activated. So they're changing it to where if you just say Siri, it'll activate. And
Yeah.
so they've added that too, and I think that's kind of an addition into for the standby mode as well.
Yep. I saw that as well. Um, that's a really cool feature. I'll kind of go into the next one. I think this is more of your expertise. They released or they're going to release a new OS, I believe, called
Yep.
Mac OS Sonoma. And with your IT background, you can tell me because I kind of understand. To me, it's like Windows XP versus 7 versus 11. Is it just a new OS with new features and stuff, or what's
It
going
is
on with that?
it is a new OS, and one of the main things, of course, we used to joke that, well, Apple doesn't charge for their OS, Windows does. So uh, Windows has gotten a little better about that, to give them
Yeah.
credit, but no, it's the next iteration. It's Sonoma. They're going to have widgets that I just mentioned. They're going to be allowed to have it on your desktop, which is kind of cool. Before, it was always on, like on your phone, it was always on a lock screen, or hidden away in your notification center. So that's new. They are, and the cool thing is, if you're in the ecosystem of Apple, if you already have those widgets on an iPad or on your phone, they'll just float on over to, you don't have to recreate them. They'll float on over to your Mac. Video conferencing. This was so freaking cool. I only have one problem with it. Let me explain what it is. So video conferencing, as you can see, like with me right now, I have a background behind me. Well, what's
Mhm.
awesome about this is that, actually, I'm going to take back my comment. I don't have a problem with it because they did say something. But what it is that, if Doug and I are talking, and if we're in a business call and I have a PowerPoint presentation, I can actually shrink myself, put myself in a circle. I can even make my background the PowerPoint presentation,
Oh, that's cool.
and I can move myself into the corner, and then Doug can see the PowerPoint, and I'm flipping through the slides. At first, when I saw this and I thought I had a problem with it, I go, oh, well, that's fine if you're doing FaceTime. Most of the business world uses Microsoft Teams, Zoom, WebEx, but at the very end, and I just read this because I caught myself, they are going to allow third-party integration with Zoom. So now, if you're in the business world and you're on a Mac, even if you have a third-party camera like I'm using right now on my Mac, which I do every day for work because I do have a Mac as my driver for work, um, I can do presentations, shrink myself down, and put myself in the presentation and point things out, kind of like a weatherman. Freaking cool. So
Yeah.
for those of us that work from home and live in that environment, we're pretty excited about it. And they also have just some security stuff, that they're going to be adding with passwords. They're doing search feature for your text messages, which I think is awesome because,
Mhm.
Doug and I text a lot. Sometimes I'll think to myself, well, what was it I said? You can actually do expanded searches now through your search history. That's really cool. And then finally, it's gimmicky, but it's kind of cool. They're adding stickers to text messaging. So you can put
Mhm.
them and drag them. And what's really neat is they had introduced a feature where if there's a picture of me standing in a park, you hold your finger down on me, it'll take me out, remove the background. You can actually take that outline of me and turn it into a sticker and slap it on any kind of a, uh, you know, text message that you want. How this will work, or will work with Android? Probably not. That's the thing. Apple keeps expanding iMessage, but So that's the rundown of Mac OS. And Doug, any thoughts on that? Does this entice you at all to want to get a Mac?
Maybe you got me with the right click button. Um, some of the features seem similar to Android, but I'd have to see. I mean, we've taken stuff from Apple, they've taken stuff from us,
Yeah,
so
it's
I'm not
competition.
worried about that. I like that we're just making these devices better for the end
Yeah.
user.
Honestly,
That's the main goal here.
everybody
Yeah,
wins with this. When
yeah,
there's an advancement, one does it and the other copies. Honestly, we all win. That's why I really do love both platforms
yeah,
for a variety of different
definitely.
reasons and their similarities. I think it's great. Uh, we'll round up the last two here real quick, or the big ticket items, if you don't mind, Doug, before we get into our final nerd news topic. And
Yeah.
that is additional announcements for the Apple CPU. They now have the M2 Ultra chipset. They had up to the max. All you need to know, these are for professional workloads. These are like movie studios. And these processors are getting beefier and
Yeah.
beefier. So Apple does manufacture their own chips now. They are ARM based. We talked about that last episode. And of course, they're coupling this with their Mac Pro desktop, their Mac Pro with M2 Ultra. Again, these are for people who are doing 3D rendering, 3D modeling. If
Mhm.
you're in the aerospace engineering, doing 3D AutoCAD, these are pretty beefy systems. So that was a big announcement that they had made there. So, any other
Yeah.
final thoughts on the keynote, Doug, before we get into our last little topic here?
No, keynotes, like I said, kind of fascinate me. You get to see these industry leaders talk about the things that they love, the things that they're working on. It's really cool. And then kind of adding their flair, their spin to it to keep the audience engaged and entertained.
Yep, it
So
was it
lots
was
of good
good.
announcements, lots of good stuff.
Exactly. All right, we have a light topic real quick before we get into our guest here. What is it?
Yep. Uh, so I recently, or well, you did too, downloaded Diablo 4. It just released for everybody. The Ultimate Edition released last week. We've been playing it pretty good. We're probably going to play it after the show today. We'll have more of a review for you, I believe. But so far, amazing.
Initial impressions. Yeah.
Yeah. We played the beta. There was a couple bugs, a couple issues. I think they've worked all those out. So far, it seems flawless. I played a couple hours today. We squadded up, or hey, you don't say squad. That's kind of military. This is more
Clan.
our clan
Yeah.
came together and we did a couple missions and stuff. So it really flows well. I like the open world concept. I'm new to Diablo 4. I like just kind of running around. It's not turn based,
It's kind of
dodging
mindless,
things.
honestly.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's a nice thing. Turn your
It's
brain
really
off.
simple to control.
It
That's one
is.
thing I love too.
It's not complicated at all. It can get
No.
busy, but it's just one you
Oh,
can just
there's so much going up on the
yeah.
screen.
But you can turn your mind off and just play it, so it's kind of nice. But no, initial
Yeah.
impressions are exactly what you said. It's definitely they did a really good job on
Hmm.
improvement from when we played early May to a final release. It's oftentimes you'll play a beta, and then when there's final release, there's not much of a change. It's more stable. Even the
Hmm.
graphics look better, and the animations are better. So it kind of makes me wonder if they were running the beta on an earlier build test just
Yeah.
to because that was a server stress test is what the purpose of that was. I think they called it the server smash or server swarm or something like that.
Yeah.
It may have been an older version that in order to to slam the servers, but I can definitely tell it's not the same iteration that was played because honestly I felt like Diablo 3 felt better to me. I walked away from the beta going, well, it
Hmm.
was good, but Diablo 3 seemed better. But now, after playing the release one, yeah, they've done a great job.
Yeah.
So that's the initial impressions that I have.
Yep. I can't agree more. I noticed getting into the combat, there's so much going on the screen, but then I took a second and looked in the background. The design and the detail in the background is amazing.
Hmm.
There's some stuff going on back there. I mean, you're so focused on all this stuff in the foreground,
Yeah.
but then
You
just a
don't want to get
beautiful game
distracted.
overall.
Yeah, you don't want to get
No,
too
not at
distracted
all.
with watching the background, but they
Oh,
are.
I've died a lot and I've had to respond. So that's
I
going to be a reoccurring theme.
It happens. It happens. But it's good so far, but more in depth later on.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that wraps it up for our news section. So let's dive into our guest.
Yeah.
So, for this week's episode, number 19, we have yet another guest. Now, This is somebody that you have heard us mention numerous times. I think the running joke is between him and I, he's like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain. My brother, Brian. We're having Brian on because what sparked this conversation was if you look over Doug's shoulder, if you're watching on YouTube, you will see this awesome cabinet playing these games. And Doug's had mentioned how many games were on it. My brother actually made it, and he makes a variety of these as a hobby. He has a lot of hobbies, but this is one of them. And we wanted to have him on and just kind of run through and talk about all of his arcade builds and have him share with us what that's about and kind of show and share everybody some of his talent and stuff that he does. Brian, how you doing, man? Can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, we got Brian on audio. So this will be like a radio talk show. This is the first time I think we've had an audio only guest, Doug.
Yeah, exciting. I'm really interested to talk to him. I have talked to him before about the arcade cabinet that he's built me, but getting into how he got into it, what he puts into it, like parts wise, and his inspiration, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it'll be interesting to talk to him and get the low down and dirty on building these arcade cabinets.
Yeah, so let's dig into it. So let's start with the very first one. Brian, how did you get into doing this and why? What gave you the idea?
Well, a lot of it came from just watching too much YouTube when it all started up with the arcade one-ups and people modding them, and I just kind of jumped on that bandwagon. Then after I had my heart attack about 5 years ago, I was bored sitting here with nothing to do. I had a 3D printer that I had bought for my Fiero to make some parts for that, and I needed something else to do with it. And then I came across the idea for the 3D printed arcade, which I made for you for Christmas. So,
Yep.
and that kind of snowballed from there. Then I ended up getting the job after the heart attack and all that, and got more established with money. And then went out and I first one I bought was an arcade one up. It was a Street Fighter from Walmart, and I modded that one. That was my retrocade one that I had. That was the first one I did, and of course I modded that one for a while. And at the end of it, I started with the Raspberry Pi 3 in that one, and then that
Gotcha.
ended up going over to a motherboard when I went PC on it. And at that point, that's when I added the 4.9 inch LCD marquee in it. So whenever game you put it on, it showed that arcade marquee on it. So, and it just kind of snowballed
Oh,
from there. And then I started doing other ones. And yeah, I just don't know when to quit.
very cool. So wait, well, let's kind of get into the guts here. What is the fundamental difference between the ones that you're building? Because you mentioned you modded the ones from Walmart, and we've all seen them. Like, what's the fundamental difference for people that don't know? Because we have a wide variety of people that listen that do know, and then a lot of people that may not. What's the difference between like the ones they see at Walmart versus the ones that you're building? What sets yours out differently? How do you go about it differently in the inside and the guts and stuff?
Well, the arcade one ups, for example, that Walmart was selling, they're pretty cheaply made. I mean, it's just pressed particle board for a cabinet. I mean, it's really cheaply made. It's just a small little bitty single board computer, one game only sometimes, some of them might have two or three games, but, because of their licensing stuff they have to do and all that. They come with a 17-inch monitor, and it wasn't a great monitor. They would have a very high fail rate. If you got 6 months out of it, consider yourself lucky. So when
Mm,
I mod them, I can either go with Raspberry Pi board, or I can go PC. I upgrade it to a 5.4 ratio Dell 20-inch monitor from a 17 to a 20-inch monitor, a lot more reliable. So you get a
hmm,
bigger screen, and then of course I've added LED buttons. I'll do a SandWall or cherry buttons and stuff, cherry switches and all that stuff. So it has more of that clicky arcade feel to them. They're much better, than the cheap Chinese clones that they put in them originally. So that's pretty much about the difference.
yeah, gotcha. So you like overhaul them so that they will last longer. You obviously add way more games. What do the one ups have? They only have like what a handful of games on them when you buy them from Walmart, don't they?
The first gen, I think, like the Street Fighter, I think it had just the one game, I believe, and then I know the Street Fighter 2. I think it had two or three different copies of it. I forget now; it's been a while, but yeah, some of them, most of them were just a prioritized one game for that arcade, like the old school quarter-based stuff was off of. It's just scaled down to a 3/4 scale.
Yeah.
And there was a couple Pac-Mans later on, like second, third generations and stuff that had 2 or 3 different games. And there's some
Yeah.
of them people have figured out how to mod the boards to where there was hidden games on it you could get out, and
Okay.
all kinds of stuff. It goes on and on and on.
But they were more novelty than anything versus what you're building is the guts from the inside up so that you have a big library of games instead of just like a handful of 3 or 4. I know Doug mentioned his has thousands. I know mine does. So that's also one of the unique things that you do. And I'm assuming those are, obviously we know those are based on ROMs. If people don't know, those are like a form of emulation that works really well. So yeah, that's awesome. So Doug, I'm gonna let you. I've been hogging the questions. You take off there, man. You ask the next one.
No, you're asking everything I want to ask. Um, so you built me, Brian, a what's called, I believe, a bar top, but I have it sitting on a riser, or I don't know the proper industry term. Besides the bar top you built me, what other form factors or styles can you build or have you built in the past?
I've done a little bit like I said, I've done arcade one-ups. I've done several of them. Like, because they're technically, when you buy them from Walmart or Best Buy, they're considered toys. Nothing more. They're a
Hmm.
novelty toy,
Yeah.
basically. And then I turn them more into an actually usable computer because I don't care about licensing and all that, that companies do,
Yeah.
so I don't have that over my head,
Yeah, and you're
so
doing
to
it for
speak.
private people too. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm doing it for
yeah, you're doing it for
privateering.
private people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Hmm.
normally, I mean, when it comes to themes and stuff, if they want a theme, I can add vinyl graphics on the side. I did a Castlevania one for a friend of mine. That turned out really nice. Um, So, it's all that. Then I have in my room, I have a micro center version. It's their idea of a 3/4 scale, but it looks more like a full size.
Hmm.
And it takes a 24-inch monitor, widescreen monitor, and it's a little wider, so you have more elbow room than the arcade one up. It's double the size of an arcade one up, so I like it better. You can actually stand next to somebody and play with them, and not be touching
It's more
shoulders.
like a full
Like
size, right?
Yeah.
it's closer
Yeah.
to a full size, yes. Now the Micro Center full size one takes a 32-inch TV.
Oh
So I
wow.
mean you can see how
Mhm.
big that can get, and that's a
Oh yeah.
four-player design. So, but yeah, I got that. I'm also in the process of doing I've done digital pinball machines. I've done the bar tops. Like I said, I've done the 3D printed ones I've made. Um, I'm also in the process of working on I had a buddy of mine had an old Outrun, full size Outrun cab, turbo Outrun actually,
An
and I'm in
original cabinet, right?
the original cabinet. Yes, the board and the screen was going out. The board was bad, so I gutted it all out. I kept the pedals and the steering wheel and all that, and I put an old school CRT TV in it, and gutted it and put it in there to replace the original monitor. And I put a PC in that, and I'm going to be turning it. I'm in the process of turning it over to a multi-driving cab. So I'm in the process of getting all my games
Oh.
set up and all that, and doing all that. So yeah,
So they'll be all racing games, but you'll actually have the steering wheel and the
yes,
accelerator
pedals.
at the.
Yep,
That's
yep.
awesome.
The high
That's
low,
really.
all that. Yep. I'm keeping all the stuff the arcade had, on the peripherals and stuff, brake, gas, steering, start, turbo,
Oh,
up,
That's awesome.
shifter, all that. That'll all still be there.
That's cool.
that's really cool. So there's some challenges with building arcades. Before we go into that, how did you learn to do this? I mean, was it kind of YouTube videos, or do you have some past electrical and computer knowledge that helped you build these?
Notice I
I
didn't ask that one, Brian, because I already know the answer to this.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
see,
you
I don't
do.
know. I'm learning all kinds of stuff today.
For me, this just comes very, very natural. I mean,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
don't need to watch any video. I can just say, "Hey, mod this for me." I'm on it. You know,
Perfect.
I'm like
Yeah.
Builder Bob. Yes, we can. So
There we go.
If he visualizes
so
it, he can pretty much make it and
yeah,
do it.
pretty
Well,
He's
much.
that's
been
Yep,
really
he's
yep.
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, that's his
And I
MO.
can
He's
make it
done
to
that
your
forever.
taste too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's very talented with his hands.
So knowing that you have the skills to get these projects done, what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced, or, oh, I can't do it this way, I've got to do it another way?
I really haven't had any kind of challenges like that. I guess the biggest challenge I've had is doing the software in on the digital pinball because there is a
Oh,
lot to that. There's a lot of fun. I got 400 tables on that machine.
Oh, man.
and it ranges from the FX2, FX3 line from FX pinball stuff, which is a really nice
Mhm.
looking pinball tables. I got getting the V pin front end all set up and all that, and then future pinball and so on. So yeah, there's a lot to it. You got to know where all the files go for your back glass, for your DMD, and for your playfield, and have
Yeah.
all that set up. And there's a lot of configuration with that. Plus, I've slowly been adding solenoids and stuff, toys to it, to make it more pinball-like, like a mechanical pinball.
Yeah. And if people don't know what he's talking about, this thing is amazing. First of all, it's huge. I've had to help him lift it. So basically, how many TVs do you have in this? So it's in the shape of a pinball machine, but you took a television and laid it flat and you're running digital 3D pinball software. And then you have another television on the top for the scoreboard and then a marquee, right?
Yes, yeah, I got a 43-inch
TV. Yeah.
TV for the playfield.
Yep.
And then I
Oh, man.
have a 14.9-inch LCD screen um, for the GMD, which is where your score and all that's at, the smaller box. And above that, the back box, which shows the background of the game you're playing, that's on a 32-inch Vizio.
Oh yeah, it's so cool. Like I got to play it, and he doesn't have the solenoids in it yet. And the solenoids, will they make it like vibrate, right, and shudder and
Well,
give it the
well,
pinball feel? Is that what it'll do?
the solenoids make the clicking sound when you hit the buttons.
To make it
all it
Oh,
realistic?
is
gotcha.
Yeah.
all it is just
That
the
makes sense.
old school like let's say mid-80s Ford's starter solenoids. That's all it
Mm-hmm.
is, and they
Oh
make the click
really?
click 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 sounds every time you hit the button. It makes that
That's
pop pop
cool.
pop click sound just like the bumpers do on a mechanical. So and then I
That's
got
cool.
an 8-inch sub in it. It's like 650-watt speaker system in it.
It's loud.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
very
man.
loud.
I've
And
got
then
to
I've
play it.
also
We played that at Thanksgiving, and my daughters. Oh my gosh, Brian took them down there, and it was so much fun. And it's not even completed. You're running that runs on Windows. Do you have like a PC in that? That's not Raspberry Pi. You're running that on a straight up PC build, right?
yes, I'm running on an i5, like a 50 i5. So yeah, it's got like a 750 GTX video card in it.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's a really cool build. It's one of my favorite ones that he's done so far. But like you said, the software, getting all of the flippers and the buttons and the menu system to work is complex, and automating all that. I've seen you have to do that before, so that one's still a work in progress, I assume.
Yeah, I haven't got to mess with it much lately, so too much other projects going on.
Yeah, understandable. All right, Doug, keep going.
Yeah. So you're working on this pinball machine. Is there any future projects you have in the works or anything you're thinking of getting ready to start?
Well, right now, just the outrun is my biggest thing, getting that one going. I've
Hmm.
started on that one and stuff,
Yep.
and it's just a matter of getting all the pots on the foot pedals and the steering controls wired into the Ultimark board, and then running that down to a USB cable down to the computer so it reads everything. So when you hit the gas and turn left to right, all the buttons, all that stuff. Because I'm gonna have multiple games on there, so I got to put extra buttons underneath it for left and right to scroll through the games. So
So let me ask
Okay.
you
stuff
about
like
that.
that.
So let me ask you about on the outrun. So you've got an old school, and make sure I have a picture of an outrun machine, but you've got the steering wheel, you've got the pedals on the bottom. So you're actually running wiring from those accessories on the inside, and you're running it to a board that will then convert it to USB to the PC so that it can read it like a normal controller to be used on like a wide variety of games. Is that how that works, basically?
Yep, yep. That's exactly how it works. Yeah, it's an encoder.
Wow. Where do you get the
Yeah,
board?
I do it with the Raspberry Pis on the arcade one ups. I have to run an encoder on each
Oh,
joystick and button set to the Raspberry Pi or to the PC also. So
hmm.
same thing. This is
And
just a
where do you get
different
those
brand of
controller
encoder.
boards? Do you buy your parts from some specific place? I know you mentioned like Micro Center for like the different cherry type switches and all that. Like, is that the main place you get your stuff, or do you have like places you go online to get the guts you need to
I
do that
have
kind of
several different
wiring?
places. I can get a lot of that kind of stuff just straight through Amazon. That's the quickest way of
Gotcha.
getting it.
Okay.
Because they spoil you with the on 2-3 day shipping or even sooner than that sometimes. So,
Gotcha.
but yeah, if I need it in a pinch that day, I will drive down to Brentwood to Micro Center down there and get stuff that I need. They have about everything. They got a pretty nice arcade section to start building one.
Okay, that's really
Oh,
cool. And I
cool.
noticed on Doug's, on the side of his, and a lot of the pictures we're showing, there are graphics. What is involved? I know, like on mine you built, I don't know if you can see, I'm wearing my Superman hat. He printed a 3D Superman emblem and did a 3D printer on mine, one of his first builds. But then you got into doing wrapping. How do you go about that, and how complicated is that? And I know you had, didn't you, Doug? Did you pick that out and you worked with him on it, right? To customize, you get to that level of customization. How do you do that?
Well, for me, I have a couple companies. One's out of Pennsylvania that I go through, and they have a website, and you can just go on there, pick what you want. And that's got to let them know if it's for an arcade one up, or if it's for a bar top, or a pinball machine, or a micro center size arcade cabinet, whatever. But
Hmm.
and then you just pick it, pay the money, and it takes a few weeks to a month to get it because they have some really massive, commercial size printers that they use with Photoshop and everything. You can also make your own vinyl graphics through a Photoshop app, and then work with them and stuff, and then ship it to you. Then it's a self adhesive backing on it, so it's
Oh
just a
my
matter of
goodness.
putting it down, just like you do on the vinyl graphic you see on people use on cars nowadays. It's just getting it all down a little at a time and not having any air bubbles. That's the biggest thing is air bubbles.
That would drive me
So
nuts. I put that one on my Steam Deck and it took me forever. I can't imagine you having to do like a whole cabinet like that.
the cabinets are easy because they're flat. You have a lot
Sure.
more curves on that Steam Deck that you have to get around, and you get little traps of air pockets in those curves.
Hmm.
So you got to know some of the tricks with pins and stuff to get the air out and how
Yeah.
to
And,
work all that. And
and
it takes a lot of patience.
those wraps, they're vinyl, right?
Yes, yes, yes. It's vinyl wraps. It's a
Gotcha.
3M vinyl adhesive wrap. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also don't know when we have some of the pictures. One thing I want to point out, if those of you watching on YouTube, if you look on Doug's at the top of the marquee, it's like a traditional marquee. It says arcade and has a light. However, he mentioned it a moment ago, he has some where there's an actual screen up there. And as you change the game, sometimes game footage will play at that top marquee or animate. So the level of customization that you do is just, it's really impressive. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So is that when you do that, is that like that programming at the top? Let's say you're using it at the Raspberry Pi. Is that something the software does so it knows to play like a footage, B-roll footage up at the top? Is that how that works?
Well, it depends. Now, if it's like a Raspberry Pi 4, it has two video ports on it, and there are some builds
Oh,
that
okay.
have it built in and have the marquees and a file system that matches to the game. When it sees that game, it automatically goes to that and shows it up on that second video screen, which would be the marquee in this case, that game because the name file is the same as the game file. So
Gotcha.
with the PC, I had to run a Pi Zero,
Mm,
little baby Pi
the
Zeros
tiny
with
ones,
an
yeah.
the little baby ones with an 8 gigabyte SD card in it, and it had all the files, and it read with CoinOps. That's one I like about CoinOps because it's so user friendly, and there's really hardly no learning curve with CoinOps compared to like Launchbox and other front ends. So it's really nice, and
Gotcha.
even adding on games is like stupid simple.
Yeah. And
So
CoinOps
it
is a
makes it quick and
software
easy.
type.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
front end software program. Yes.
Gotcha.
Oh. So talking about that driving arcade with all the games it takes me back to I love the off-road series, Super Off-Road on the Super Nintendo. I mean, I'm younger than you guys who don't have to talk ages, but I like the Cruising USA and all those kind of 2000s things. So arcades, what was your favorite arcade growing up? Was it fighting or racing or wrestling? There were so many out
Well,
there.
Well, when it comes to a favorite arcade, I'm going to show my age. When I started out, it was Space Invaders and Donkey Kong.
He
That
did go
Yeah.
was
back.
at the
That's a
YMCA
deep
back when I
cut.
was like 5.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah, I
youngin'.
go I go way back. I mean, I was raised with this stuff, literally. I've seen it from its, infancy. So, my first arcade system I had was an Atari 2600, when I was
Hmm.
5.
Mm,
So, I
yeah.
mean, I go back. So I watch it just grow up, and get so great. I mean, I can go on for days about all that. But as far as a favorite game, I don't know if I really have one with arcade. So, I mean, I have some on consoles because I got more into consoles later years than I did arcade for a while. I mean,
Hmm.
only time I was ever arcade is if it was a birthday, you
Yeah,
know,
Hmm.
like an
Gotcha.
event.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, my cause the last arcade I was in, I was 14, that was pocket change. And I spent an entire day with a friend of mine. I mean, literally like 8 hours in there. And I think the game I played the most at
Yep.
that time was Revolution X. I was real big on that game
Yes.
with Aerosmith. I
that's
was
a
real
great
hot
game.
heavy in that game, and
Yep.
I also liked WrestleFest and Superstars too at the time.
Great game, also.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So those are probably the
Uh,
three arcades that come out stick out the most to me.
yeah. You bring up Pocket Change. That was in the Columbia Mall, right?
Yes.
Yep. So I remember Revolution X, amazing. Aerosmith music, if you're into Aerosmith, which I was and I am, awesome music. Afterburner 2, Time Crisis. I mean, there's just so many classics that are in the arcades. Hollywood theaters in our local town here, they had a pretty good arcade. So lots of great memories there.
I was always a Rampage fan myself. I love that game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Rampage was a
Grabbing
good
the
one.
people out of the window and eating
Oh
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome.
great game. Absolutely great game. So before we pivot to one other topic, Brian, these cabinets. How long do they take you to make? And I know it probably depends on the build, how big it is, the style, but on average, because I'm leading into another question. That's why I'm asking about what's your average build time. I know it's not your full time job. How long do these cabinets take to make typically for you?
Most of the time, it's just waiting on parts to come in more than anything, especially
So
the
the build
vinyl
time's not
graphics.
bad.
No, the build time itself, I could have it done in 2 days if I had all the parts right then and there, easily, and
Gotcha.
that's taking my sweet time.
Yeah.
I could have it done in a day, a day and a half. Like the arcade one-ups, I have to add, stuff like LED lights in the marquee because none of them, a lot of the first gen, second, third gens don't come with split marquees. It's
Gotcha.
literally just a piece of wood, with a vinyl covering over it. So I actually have to make a piece of plexiglass, put an actual translucent vinyl on there, and put an LED behind it. So, and kind of create all that. So,
And the more custom it is, the longer you're probably waiting on those parts. Like the wrap, if it's made for that build, you're basically waiting on those custom things to be sent to you.
yes, yeah, it takes up to months. Sometimes, I mean, I did a turtle one and redid the control panel. The control panel piece itself took like 2 months for me to get it. It took
Oh, for the
quite a
Ninja
while.
Turtles. Yeah.
Yeah, Ninja Turtle one. There was a 4 player one, that arcade one up did. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's pretty good. So I asked that only because every now and then we'll have people ask if someone is interested in employing your services and have you build a custom cabinet like you did for Doug, myself, and many, 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 many other people. Like I know you have like your own, privatized business. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
They could, they can email me on the Oletymergames at Yahoo. They can email me there, and I can get a hold of them that way. And I'll give them my number, text them
Okay.
whatever, and get down with them what they're looking for because I can get pretty technical on the customizations of what they're wanting. If they have an idea, if
Yeah.
they don't, I give them ideas, so forth.
Doug, you can speak to that when you went through the process.
Absolutely. I came over to your house one time. I saw that Superman build. I said, "Oh, I've got to have me one of these." Started talking to Brian, and just the questions he had. So many customization options. You talked about the vinyl earlier. I looked and looked and looked on the website. So many options. But and I'll get some pictures up so everybody can see. I kind of picked a mixed match of all the games, so it's not just like one theme. It's all different characters from many different games that I love and I've have so many good memories of.
Which it
So
makes
you're right.
sense because you have
Yeah.
tons of games on the dumb thing. So
Oh
it
yeah.
has so many games.
So you're right. The level of customization that Brian offers is amazing. We'll definitely have to throw his information up on there.
We will. We'll put his email address if anybody's interested in it. And as a side note, one thing we did mention, if you're wondering, depending on what size you go with, whether it's a small one or a bar top one or full size, Brian, you always put extra ports on it if you wanted to do like an external controller, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Well, with the Raspberry Pi, they have 4 USB ports, so like you can run wireless controllers, like a PlayStation or Xbox style controller. The coin ops on the PC, they are already pre-installed with to run an Xbox 360 controller. So I put extra extension cables on top of them.
Mhm.
That way you can run with a keyboard mouse combo, or you can plug it in, for a wired or unwired, wireless controller. If you have more than two people playing it, if it's a four-player game or something along those lines, 'cause some even, coin-based arcades had, that,
Yeah.
so yeah, and then,
And you've done a couple of different builds, we've kind of weaved in and out of it, but I want you to expand just a little bit more on the coin op. Now, does coin op, it doesn't run on Raspberry Pi. Does it only run
no,
on
no.
PC, right? What
Well,
like
it's PC, and they have recently just come out with a Raspberry Pi 4
oh,
version.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that. Oh,
yeah, I've been
Oh,
working with it for a while now, so now
does it work
6,
well?
7
Because it
months.
always works great on Windows. So how does it work on Raspberry Pi?
It does okay. It does okay. They keep coming up with newer versions and updating stuff,
Mm,
and getting the bugs out. But yeah, so it's still kind of in infancy, but it's not it's coming along pretty good.
mm,
So
that's really cool. It is
yeah,
one of my favorites as well. Because he is right. It's turnkey. It's like, well, my favorite thing is the menu system. It's really easy to
yeah.
navigate, and it's more user friendly, I guess would be the best way to say it.
yeah,
Yeah, I have to
yeah,
agree with that. Finding the game that you want, it's got favorites list. It's sorted by system or action or adventure. It's really easy to find it because, like we talked about, I've got 5,000 to 10,000 games. I mean, that's just a rough estimate. I mean, I could spend days and days and days trying to find that one game I want, but the menu, like I said, sorts it really well.
Well, and the really cool thing is like with mine, mine's a tabletop, not a bar top like yours, but so even smaller. But I had it sitting on my kitchen counter for the longest time. And what was so cool that he did little tweaks. I think I mentioned it last episode. Not only does he do tweaks, not only does he like gut the buttons and do all the rewiring, do all these customizations to what you want. But I remember, Brian, on mine, I think you did this on Doug's too, because you could spend so much time in the menu. Like you can spend hours going through the menus.
Oh,
He
yeah.
has music, like 80s music playing to entertain you. Like little tweaks like that is so cool. How long did
yeah,
that take to
yeah.
set up?
Oh, it don't take long at all. I mean, it don't take long at all to
You just got to
setting
add
that
the
up.
music,
I
the WAV
yeah, I
files
got
or whatever.
I got I got hard drive. I got an 8 terabyte external that's full of ROMs. I got a 6 terabyte that's full of ROMs and builds. I got another 8 internal that's got ROMs and music on it. I got almost 32 gig, well, 32 terabyte worth of ROMs.
Gotcha.
So,
Oh, man.
I
If you
mean,
want
I'm
something, he's
somewhere
got it.
about 60,000 to 80,000 ROMs altogether. If you go through the 40 some years of systems,
That's
I
crazy.
mean, that's also getting into like Vectrix, which is Russian,
Yep.
all some of the PAL stuff, and
The
I'm kind of
European.
I'm getting into Switch games now on there, and now Xbox 360 and PS3 is finally starting to come around, so I'm getting some of them now. So
Gotcha.
it's getting bigger.
It is.
So
I see. See, I would. So my other thing is on CoinOp. You had mentioned to me before the call a CoinOp jukebox. What is that? And what is that build that you're working on? What's that project?
well, it's coin op's front end, just like the arcade, but instead of the games, you have music.
That's so cool.
It shows videos, and I'm eventually going to end up, if I can ever find the right jukebox. I want an old school 70s style Whirlage with the
Oh,
big glass ones. I
yeah.
want to put like
With
a
the
big
colors and
six.
everything.
Yeah, I
And
want
the
to put like a
bubbles on the sides, yeah.
yeah. Well, no, I'm doing more not 50s, but more 70s style, the wider
Oh, okay.
style,
Yep.
and it had the wider glass in the front where I can put an actual touchscreen TV in it.
Oh, I
So
always
that
think of
way
Pizza
you can
Hut. Pizza Hut had
some
those styles,
yeah,
kind of.
similar,
Oh,
yeah,
back
yeah,
in the day.
the real wide ones, yeah. And that way you can touchscreen you can on the touchscreen, you can scroll down and find your song. I mean, they make an iTouch tunes already, you can find
Yeah,
them some bars and restaurants. This
I've
is
seen
just a
them.
bigger version of that, a bigger TV. I'm talking like a
Wow.
40 to 60-inch TV touchscreen.
Mm,
Oh,
And
man.
then you can find your song, when you hit play, it'll actually play the video. That's one thing iTouch doesn't do is, play the video, mine would. So,
that's
then it
cool.
can flip out to other TVs if you needed to and just have it
Wow.
on that one or whichever. So I think it'd be kind of neat little project I'll eventually do.
That'd be fun. And man, can you imagine like
So
at a restaurant or something? Not only do you get the music, but you get to watch the video, especially on the TV. That's a really good idea.
Oh,
See,
that
I
would be
came up
really
with
good.
that
Yeah.
idea back in the '80s. Still shows my age. When Laserdisc first came out, there was one at a Pizza Hut, and it was the first time
Oh.
I ever seen an actual Laserdisc. And it actually
Mm,
showed the video when you the song you picked and everything. That's where the idea kind of came from. I'm just modernizing it with the touchscreen and so forth.
awesome. That sounds really cool. Look forward to that.
Yeah,
Once you get to that point, we'll definitely want to do an update and have your uh,
yeah,
new
yeah.
pictures and updated builds.
Mhm.
I got the jukebox right now. I got it on my pinball machine for kind of a multi-use. So it's pretty neat on the pinball machine too. So
Yeah.
So I think I first met you. I could have this backwards. Either building arcades or retro game collecting. So being a retro game collector, we've talked about you, and we've talked about helping you at the gaming convention. If someone's interested in getting some items from your retro game collection or your inventory, what's the best way to go about doing that?
yeah, well, there's a couple ways. I do have a display booth at Artichoke Annie's in Millersburg, Missouri.
Okay.
It's in
Yeah.
the back there, and it's a lit up case. Can't miss it. Um, then you can also go through my Oldtimer games, and if there's any games you're looking for, so or any systems. So I got a lot of systems too. So
Yeah. I was going
Mhm.
to say, to be
Yeah.
clear, I mean, we were talking about the amount of digital ROM games he has. He has probably almost just as many physical
Yeah.
games, it
I
feels like,
I have to agree. Yeah.
and
I'm
consoles.
probably
So,
Yeah.
roughly 6,000, or the actual physical games, roughly. Yeah,
Oh
I'm somewhere
man,
between
it's a
four to
lot.
6,000 games right now. Yeah,
Yeah. Doug and I had
I'm
quite the
constantly buying
selection.
more too. So
We've had to load and unload people. We know this.
yeah. But the conventions are fun, as
Yes, they are
we
definitely.
talked about on the episode, but they are fun. But it's crazy the amount of people out there that are interested in this. But he does have a decent inventory, so we'll make sure that, again, I'll put up the old timer game uh, uh, information, contact information. So if you're,
Mhm.
whether you are like Kevin, who we had on the show, who's a collector who's looking for something, or if you're interested in a cabinet, a lot of people are, an arcade cabinet or something, Brian is your guy. We'll make sure we can help you get in touch with him. Doug, any final thoughts or final questions for Brian?
No, I mean, just keep letting me help you out at the conventions. Keep making these awesome cabinets. Once you get that pinball table, I may have to give me one of those. Thanks for coming on the show and talking to us today.
Yeah, Brian,
yeah,
really
no problem.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
All right,
All
everybody.
right.
We appreciate everybody listening to this episode number 19. And again, special thanks to Brian, our special guest. If you're interested in any of his stuff, we'll make sure we have it in the show notes as well, not just on screen. And if you have any questions, of course, you can put them in the comments of YouTube. And we want to wish everybody a awesome week. And we will see you at a round number, an even number, Doug, episode number 20 next week.
Oh, yeah. Big things. Moving on.
That's right.
Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching.
All right. Take care, everyone.